Hi, I'm Larry Daptis. I'm the entomologist with Cape Cod Cooperative Extension, and I'm with...
Hi, I'm Gabby, Cape Cod Mosquito Control entomologist.
And we're here for a segment of Bug Buzz. And in this program, Gabby and I each bring insects into your life that you may have seen or be somewhat familiar with, but we're going to tell you some really interesting things about how these things make a living. So Gabby, what do we have here for the folks today?
So today I'm going to talk about a smelly bug, because I didn't want anything cute, anything pretty. I chose the brown marmorated stink bug.
Cool.
So just to get started, the brown marmorated stink bug is a true bug, and we've got a lot of native true bugs here in this area, bugs that have piercing, sucking mouth parts, stink bugs just like this one. So the idea is actually to know first how to identify the brown marmorated stink bug. The brown marmorated stink bug actually has some really good distinguishing characteristics. It has white bands on its antenna and legs. It has smooth shoulders. We have a few stink bugs that look the same, but they have spiny shoulders. And it has white and black marks that go around the edge of its abdomen, sort of an alternating pattern.
So there's nothing else that looks like that bug?
Exactly. There are a few other true bugs that you see this time of year, especially entering people's houses. This is a picture of a leaf-footed bug. The leaf-footed bug, if you look at this picture, has hind legs that are kind of widened. It's the native western seed conifer bug. So you'll see those in your house.
And I get calls about those all the time.
They're cool. They're walking slowly around the house. All bugs go through the same life cycle. The brown marmorated stink bug lays its eggs on the bottom of leaves. From those eggs hatch nymphs like in this picture. And those nymphs go through a number of molts until they get to the adult stage, which is the first stage that you saw with the wings all developed and everything like that. This is, as I said, an invasive species. This mosquito,
Well, where'd it come from?
I can't help it. This stink bug came from Asia, and this map of the United States shows where you're seeing it right now. It first originally came into the United States in the mid-1990s into Pennsylvania, and from there it expanded its population. By 2004, they were seeing significant populations on the farms around that area in Pennsylvania, and by 2010, they were seeing a lot of damage in the Mid-Atlantic area on fruit and vegetables.
Sure, it's caused millions and millions of damages to crops, just lowers pack out.
Terrible, terrible. So this map is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and what you'll see on it is dark orange are the towns where this bug has been confirmed and identified. There are light orange towns as well. That doesn't mean that the bug isn't there. It just means that it hasn't been confirmed and identified there in those towns. It probably is more widespread than we know right now based on detections. Why do we want to know where it is? Oh, the damage that it causes, like I said, from fruit like apples and pears to things in your garden like tomatoes and eggplant, it does significant damage. The other reason why we would want to know about this bug is because it's a huge nuisance.
It's coming.
Areas where there's a huge bug population, you'll see them coming into the houses this time of year. Here on the Cape, maybe one or two. Out in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, maybe tens of thousands coming into some person's house. They're stink bugs. They smell, and when you try to vacuum them up, your vacuum ends up smelling just like those stink bugs. So what can you do here on the Cape if you're looking at one, you think you see one on your window, take a picture of it. And pick up that bug and then give the Cooperative Extension a call. Larry's been doing surveys across the Cape, and you told me at a blueberry farm this summer you found an increased population of these brown marmorated stink bugs. So it's important that if you see something, you say something. And get them identified to make sure that they're confirmed.
And I'm pretty convinced they are now here on Cape Cod, and they're going to be very happy here.
So there you go.
All right, very good. Moving on to culprit number 2. This drab-looking creature is an adult stage winter moth. And this is something that we've seen here, the Cape people have been watching for the last 20 years. And this time of year into December, you'll see clouds of these things around you, porch lights, street lights, and as you're driving around. And it's only the male moths you see. You don't see the female moths because they can't fly. they don't have wings.
Sad.
So they're not so sad, just a different lifestyle. And so the females are on the sides of the trees, and they're emitting a pheromone, and they're singing their hearts out for her boyfriend. And once that hookup happens, that female moth will lay her eggs along the bark and along branches and up around the buds. And they'll be there all winter, and they'll hatch out on the Cape mid to third week of March, in my experience. And what they're doing is timing their hatch to just when the buds are starting to swell and break. And so these little teeny tiny inchworm-like caterpillars will wriggle in between the bud scales. And so basically they're playing a fast and loose game with the timing of the bud break, because if they hatch out too soon, there's nothing to eat. And if they time it just right, they're first at the dinner table. So they're out competing all the other insects. So this is why Gabby and I love evolutionary biology. It's absolutely fascinating. So typical damage you might see on a shade tree like this oak tree is this lacy defoliation. And you can have substantial numbers of these things. This mature oak tree that's completely defoliated, you might have 150,000 caterpillars up in that tree canopy. But it's also a pest of small fruits, things like blueberry and cranberry. So for the U-pick farms on the Cape, I do monitoring this spring to detect egg hatch, and it helps us with the timing of the insecticides. What can be done, if anything? Well, Gabby and I both did our entomology schooling at UMass Amherst, and our professor, our ecology professor, Joe Elkington, he's been busily releasing a parasitic fly as a solution for this for the last 14 years. And so meet Cyzenus albicans. So it's a parasitic fly, and what this fly does is when a leaf is damaged by a feeding caterpillar, it emits volatile chemicals. And this fly can pick up on those chemicals, zoom in on the foliage that's being eaten, and she'll lay her eggs along the margin where these caterpillars are feeding, and the caterpillars will basically ingest the eggs, and they'll hatch into these little larvae. But unlike other parasites, they don't go to work immediately. They just kind of stand down, and they wait for that caterpillar to get bigger and bigger and bigger until it becomes a pupa. Now it's the maximum size, and that's when these little things go to work.
Smart.
And it's very smart resource allocation. It maximizes the probability that you're going to have a lot of these things emerge. So in Nova Scotia, they did this plan back in the 1950s. And because this was introduced from Europe, and we then got it from Nova Scotia through Plymouth, I might add. So it was off Cape Towns. And after about 15 years or so, as you see here on this chart, when they started releasing the flies, the caterpillar population started going down, which is the orange line, as the flies increase their population, which is the blue line. And basically, this thing has now been well established. There were 4 release points on Cape Cod. And last fall, when I was driving around the back roads of the Cape and Middleborough, where I live, I didn't see a very big moth flight at all. And that told me that this parasite seems like it's taken a big foothold. And this spring, I didn't find a lot of larvae. In fact, our blueberry growers didn't even have to spray. So it looks like going forward, winter moth is now going to be pushed into the background, because our trees have taken a beating over the last 5 years from both winter moth and gypsy moth, which is also not going to be a problem going forward due to that parasitic fungus. So our trees are going to have a chance to kind of recover and reestablish their health. So that's good news going forward. So that's it from this segment of Bug Buzz, and Gabby and I look forward to coming back to you again with another couple very interesting creatures.